Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Daily Broncos here. Tonight we're going to be reacting to the team's 29-19 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. This was a big time win. Not only does it separate the Broncos further from their opponents below them in the 7th and final playoff spot, but it was their first win at the Raiders since 2015. I want to say it was 9 games. That was the last time that happened. I mean, think about it. That was a while ago. I mean, Peyton Manning was obviously the quarterback back then. But Bo Nix, he's a large reason why the Broncos are overachieving. They had a 5.5 win total coming into the year, according to Vegas. They've already smashed that. But Nix in this one, 25 of 42, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, only takes 1 sack, was efficient with it, didn't turn it over. The run game essentially was non-existent in this one. We saw Devontae Williams get 8 carries for -2 yards, and the Broncos decided to go with Jaleel McLaughlin, who was much better, 7 for 44. And then same thing with Audric Estime, the rookie, 3 for 15. It'll be interesting to see how this Broncos run game gets going, because the Broncos, they are top 7 in terms of run blocking from the offensive line this year. And in terms of pass blocking, they're actually number 1. In my last video, I said that I hadn't thought the Broncos offensive line was amazing. Not that it was bad, but no, it actually has been amazing, right? The offensive line is something that you really got to pay close attention to. And for the Broncos, I mean, considering where it was a couple of years ago, even last season, it definitely wasn't that bad, but just Russ held onto the ball a lot, and that was kind of a major issue. So give credit to them up front. That's where it starts. And obviously, that's where it's going to finish. But for the receivers, we saw Courtland Sutton go 8 for 97 with 2 touchdowns. He's just been putting together amazing game after amazing game for this team. Devon Vile, 6 for 80. Marvin Mims Jr., 3 for 44. Troy Franklin, 2 for 31. The young guys have absolutely been balling out. We found, of course, our wide receiver 1, which is Courtland Sutton. Give credit to Sean Payton for getting these guys more involved, because at the beginning of the year, there was definitely a huge concern for the pass catchers. Was there enough talent around Bo Nix to be able to help him out? We saw, of course, it took him a while to get his first passing touchdown. The first couple of games were a struggle, but ever since then, I mean, it's been nothing but just absolutely magnificent play out of Nix. The defense holds the Raiders to only 19 points. Of course, they force a fumble late in this game. They had an interception, so 7 points came off of that pick. So, of course, the interception led to a touchdown, and then we have the big strip sack fumble. We now have a rusher in double-digit sacks in Nick Benito. His career high was 8 previously. He's already beaten that. And then the final play, which was a sack, that just completely ended the game. It was 2-score. It was improbable, but still, the Broncos, they forced a lot of pressures. They're second in the league in that. Defensively, they're getting it done on all levels. The linebackers, the front, the secondary. Of course, one of our top cornerbacks, Riley Moss, left with an injury and did not return, but it was just next man up mentality. 7-5 is a great spot to be in, because if you look at the schedule for the Broncos, they've got the Browns on Monday Night Football. Actually, I think that game was flexed. Yeah, it was supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure they moved that. You guys can let me know down below. But regardless, it's a game that at home against Cleveland you've got to get. But the Browns, they have beaten the Ravens this season, and they've beaten the Steelers. So that's a game that you have to come prepared to. I get those are divisional teams. They know each other better. But Denver, just like against the Raiders, they came out kind of, not going to say flat, but it kind of was the second straight game against the Raiders where they were in the driver's seat, and then all of a sudden an interception. Remember last time it was Surtain with a pick 6. This time it ended up being another similar play to that. So I'm very impressed with that. And then the bye week, and then Indianapolis, who is now 5-7. So you've got a 2-game lead on them. The Dolphins are technically better because they're 5-6. So you don't want to start dropping games and let a team catch you. But I don't see the Broncos doing that. They'll definitely take care of the Browns. And then I expect them off of their bye to be ready for the Colts, who struggled mightily, at least from an offensive standpoint, against the Lions. And then at the Chargers, at the Bengals, and at home against the Chiefs. The final 3 games are as hard as it gets in the NFL, but the next 2 are against teams that are definitely ones that have good coaches, Shane Steichen and Kevin Stefanski, but you still got to find a way to win that. But in terms of just the overall outlook for the Broncos, I mean, you really can't complain with where this team's at, just given the fact that defensively they've been one of the best in football all year long, and then offensively they're getting it going. They're scoring a lot of points. Bo Nix is playing like, honestly, a top 5 quarterback right now, which is just wild to think about, because not very many analysts were high on him coming out of Oregon. Also was at Auburn, so he's played in the Pac-12. He's played in the SEC, more college starts than anyone ever. And he did get up to a slow start, but like I said, I would say ever since the a Bucks game. I mean, the first two games, I remember them obviously because I saw them, but they're just so in the past. It's just a much different Knicks. Ever since that Bucks game, that was the breakout game of his career. I just want to see the run game get going a little bit more consistently to make things easier on Knicks because I think that's going to be what separates the Broncos from winning, let's say, 9 games this season versus legit being able to compete in this AFC, which is wide open. The Chiefs, they haven't struggled. They're 10-1 obviously, but they've been in one-score games like all but one. I think there was maybe one game this year the Chiefs weren't in a one-score game, and the Broncos were one of those teams that had a chance to kick a game-winning field goal on them and it got blocked. Pretty confident in the Broncos' ability to beat anyone, I would say, in the entire AFC outside of the Ravens. I think the Ravens are just a terrible matchup for us. If we played them again, I'm sure it would be different. But just the way that they are able to have so many different formations and motions, and it's just kind of tough matchup. But the Chiefs, they haven't handled they haven't gone up against a front like Denver all season. That's why that game was so close. So I'm excited to see what happens. But just being 7-5, great spot to be in. Chance to go up to 8-5, really 9-5, and then go into that gauntlet of the schedule against those three really top teams, some of the best in football. Even though the Bengals I know are 4-7, but they're the type of team that, I mean, they almost beat the Chargers. That came down to the final couple of drives, and that was in SoFi Stadium. So I expect it to be close to the Broncos. But this team, I mean, they've already exceeded expectations. I mean, even if they didn't win a game the rest of the year, it would definitely be a season to build off of, a lot of momentum. But the fact that they have that chance to make the playoffs, they have a big chance as well to get even higher up in the playoff seeding because the Chargers face off against the Ravens. So let's say that the Ravens lose, they go to 7-5. Well, the Broncos are 7-5, they'd have the tiebreaker. But then all of a sudden, again, you got a couple of teams you're expected to beat. I don't know who the Ravens play after this, but you got a chance to continue to push and push and push. You definitely don't want to be the number 7 seed because right now that's the Bills. There is a chance that the Bills will pass the Chiefs. But like I said, I think the Broncos can beat Chiefs. I think they can beat the Bills, Steelers, Texans. Like I think they can beat all those teams, but definitely would not want to play the Bills in the first round. I'd rather get up to that number 6 seed and take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Things are going to change. The Texans, they did lose today. They're 7-5 as well. I mean, who would have thought, right? Like the Broncos and the Texans. The Texans did have a really hard schedule, which I knew, but still, I mean, the Broncos are exactly where they want to be. They're playing well. They believe in themselves, and I'm definitely excited for it. And just knowing that you have a couple of games lead of the teams behind you on the bubble, you have some games coming up that you're expected to win pretty, not, I wouldn't say like convincingly, but just teams you're expected to beat that you have to take care of no matter what, teams that probably aren't going to make the play. Like the Browns are cooked. The Colts, they're probably a loss away from being completely out of it. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. But this was the type of game that I expected it to be competitive. I expected it to be close. It's a divisional team that has had your number in their own building. But the Raiders, they're definitely trending down. The Broncos are trending up. And where it starts, of course, is the quarterback, but you also defensively have to show out, and you've got to have good coaching, good discipline. You've got to have weapons to be able to catch the ball. Cortland Sutton, Vila. We've seen Troy Franklin get involved now, and Marvin Mims. I mean, it's exactly what we wanted to see happen is happening. And if you're a Denver Broncos fan, you've got to be loving it right now.